All right. Thank you and good afternoon. So, today we're going to be talking about the future of SAP process automation with Fiori and artificial intelligence. I'm Andrew Hayden. I'm the Senior Product Marketing Manager for our Automate products here at Precisely, and I will be your host today. All right. So, what are we going to talk about today? Well, we're going to talk about automation, data, and digital transformation and the relationship that those three things have with each other and kind of how they've evolved over time, what our priorities are today. We're going to talk about the challenges with master data and master data, especially in our SAP systems. And for example, what we're going to use is customer master data. But just know that as we talk through customer master data, really the challenges you see apply to virtually all of our big four master data areas. So customer, vendor, materials, and finance. They really aren't that different. After that, we're going to talk about SAP Fiori and some of the challenges that we're having or we're seeing customers have as they move to S4HANA and adopt Fiori, and then what we have to offer in terms of automating those Fiori processes. So what can you do to simplify and streamline your Fiori applications and your apps as you move forward and move into your S4HANA journey? Beyond that, I'm going to talk about artificial intelligence and automation. So what do we see it precisely being kind of that next thing for artificial intelligence and automation? And where do we see the greatest benefits coming from it? After that, I'm going to walk through some key takeaways that I'm going to tell you a little bit more about precisely, and I will take some questions. So let's get started. All right, automation, data, and digital transformation. You know, it's interesting. We've been doing digital transformation forever. And if you think about digital transformation, one of the key things to understand about it that I think most people, it's hard to wrap your head around is there is no end state for digital transformation. We will always be doing digital transformation. It's just what's the next iteration of it. And if you look at today, artificial intelligence is a really, really big topic that we talk about, and we're going to talk about that in a little while. But one of the things about artificial or digital transformation today really is that combination of artificial intelligence needing to get our data to the state where we can actually use it for artificial intelligence and how automation plays into that and what's the role that automation plays. So we're going to walk through and talk a little bit about kind of where those things are. We're going to start off, though, by talking about enterprise needs. And these really haven't changed over the years. It's been quite interesting to walk through and understand kind of what has happened and what hasn't happened, because pretty much for as long as we can remember, these three things have been very important to companies. These have been our core needs. We've needed more agility. We've needed to go faster. We've needed to improve the quality of our data. And these three things, like I said, haven't changed that much, but the context of them has. So traditionally, our need for agility was all around competitive advantage. How can I do something in a more agile manner than my competitors that I can get ahead of them and I can win in the marketplace? Well, that really changed with the pandemic because it went from being about competitive advantage to being about competitive advantage and how do we respond to market disruptions quickly. Our need to be agile in the face of market disruptions became paramount for most of us. And it became the difference in many cases between having a highly successful business and continuing to have a highly successful business, or really floundering and in some cases failing because we weren't agile enough to respond to those disruptions. Another aspect of it is going faster. There's a great Justin Trudeau quote out there, which is the pace of change has never been this fast, but it will never be this slow again. And I don't recommend thinking about that too long or too hard because it will make your head hurt. But it is true. I mean, we're in a business environment that is constantly accelerating. So our need to be able to keep up with it is ever present. This idea that things will never be this slow again is kind of terrifying. But both in terms of agility and speed, automation is a really great way to be able to address both of those needs. And while you're addressing that need for agility and that need for speed, we also need to improve the quality and integrity of our most important data. And that most important data that we're going to talk about today really is that core SAP master data. And when we're talking about SAP master data, it's really just about the complexity of SAP master data. And when we talk about the complexity of SAP master data, it's not just about kind of the big four. It's not just about customer, vendor, material, and finance. It's everything that's associated with those master data records. So it's things like bills of materials and our accounts payable and accounts receivable and warehousing and everything else that is linked or attached to those various master data records are all contributing to the level of complexity that we deal with in our data environments, in our SAP environments, and really across our business. And this complexity is multidimensional. It's not just about the data record. Data records themselves are highly complex. So think about an SAP material master record. On average, they have about 300 data objects in them. So there's a lot of data in each individual record. Now think about how many parts you have in anything you pick up. Pick up a remote control. Think about the number of parts that are in it. Multiply that by 300. If you've got 100 parts in something, you're dealing with 30,000 different data objects in that one thing. And something with 100 parts in it is not unusual at all these days. So there's a massive amount of complexity in that. And if you're doing it manually, it's slow, it's error prone, and you really run the risk of having a lot of downstream effects. Now, that it adds to the fact that the processes themselves are complex for master data. These processes are often involve multiple constituents across your organization. It's not just procurement doesn't just do a thing to create a material master record. It's procurement and it's production planning and it's your warehousing team and it's your finance team and it's everybody else that's involved in that, your vendor management team. You can go through every company does it slightly differently. And one of the key things about this is these are all human in the loop processes. Somebody is there at every step of the way, adding data, reviewing data, approving data, and it just makes them highly complex. So now you've got data complexity, you've got the process complexity, and adding to that process complexity then becomes the organizational complexity. Because these are all people in different parts of the organization, they've all got different priorities that may be going on. Some people are looking at some things wanting to be one way, they want their data to be structured one way, or they have a strategic priority versus a tactical priority. There's all kinds of different ideas and ways that complexity works its way into our master data processes. So keep that in mind. We're going to talk a lot about complexity, but as we talk about complexity, think about how automation also can help simplify that complexity. And we're going to talk about that when we talk about Fiori automation and when we talk about what AI allows you to do. So let's talk about customer master data. And like I said, customer master is kind of the one we're going to use, but these ideas apply to virtually all of the various core master data records, whether it's customer, vendor, materials, or your GL account, financial master data. Customer master is often seen as being that lifeblood of the company. It touches a lot of different parts of your business. It touches sales, customer service, accounts receivable, accounts payable in some cases, finance and accounting and controlling and marketing, because marketing is looking for what is our customer behavior? How's that all going to happen? And it connects a lot of different parts of our businesses. And one thing about Customer Master is it doesn't really matter what industry you're in, whether you're a manufacturer, whether you're a retailer, whether you're in a service organization or a service business. Customer Master data is absolutely critical to our success. And Customer Master, though, also has infinite options because different people manage it different ways and they create their Customer Master records different ways. I mentioned earlier that the Material Master on average has about 300 data objects in it. And that's research you can do and find it fairly easily. Customer Master, I did a lot of research on this and I could find nothing that could give me a definitive answer on kind of the average number of data objects in an SAP Customer Master record because of the way that people look at them differently, the type of data they're looking to include in a Customer Master record. And it's because of all the different areas and the ways that we each and individually do business. The general data is pretty much the same everywhere. It's that core information. Who are they? What do they do? What do they buy? All that kind of interesting stuff. Company code, we tend to manage differently and can have multiple company codes for an individual customer in some cases. Sales area data depends on how you organize your sales areas. And then the additional data. Are we looking for data for marketing? Are we looking for data for finance? Do we need other stuff for purchase history? All of that information contributes to a customer master data record. And all of this contributes to the challenges we have around customer master data records. The data complexity we talked about, and it can be massive in some cases, depending on how you structure your customer master record. And what you want to make sure of, though, is in order to run your business most efficiently, you don't want to have redundant customer master data records because that can create its own set of challenges, both upstream and downstream. We talked about data creation and management processes. If you've got a lot of different people, and depending on the complexity of your customer master data record, you can have a lot of different constituents involved in that process. That just makes it more complex, and it can take a lot longer. Data quality and consistency. Obviously, data quality and wanting to have the highest data quality possible so that we can use that record as efficiently as possible is paramount to our business being successful. On the consistency side, we have to be careful and make sure that we have guardrails around it, because different people in different departments might want to enter data differently, or two different people doing the same process might do it differently. So we want to make sure it's consistent across the way that the way those records are created, so that if we're doing reporting and any kind of analysis, that we end up with consistent analysis. And then we have data integration challenges, because many of these customer master data records often involve multiple systems of record, or just multiple ways of creating, storing, and connecting that data. And one we see frequently is people looking at SAP and Salesforce. And we want to make sure that we're coordinating and integrating that data as efficiently as possible. And when we have challenges with customer master data, often we see these same red flags pop up over and over again. We have order fulfillment problems. We send too much of a product. We send the wrong thing. We send it to the wrong address. We ship it in an inconvenient way. Shipping delays caused by things like, an incomplete address, or not having the right person that we're shipping it to. Not having the product in stock when we said it was in stock, which comes down to things like inventory mismanagement, where we tell a customer a product is available when it's not, or we tell them it can be shipped in a certain time frame when it can't. And finally, this also has great impacts on our ability to do accurate financial reporting. How much money are we making on an individual customer? Have we shipped the right things? Are we looking at a high level of returns because we've got bad customer data or bad order data? So all of these are red flags that we see consistently when people have trouble with customer master data. And this all comes back to this whole issue around digital transformation. And this is from a company called HFS. And HFS research is out of the UK and New York. And I think this is a really great way of summing it up in some ways. And that is, technology is a means to an end, but data is the currency of digital transformation. And while I would agree with this statement, I would argue vehemently that it is incomplete, because you can't just look at the data side of the equation. You have to look at this interdependence of process and data. You can't do a data quality initiative, or you can do a data quality initiative, but if you're not looking at the processes that are creating and managing that data, and those processes are creating bad data, you're going to be doing data quality forever. And that's counterproductive. Same thing on the process side. If you're doing a process improvement initiative and you improve a process that creates bad data, all you're going to do is create a lot of bad data quickly. So you have to take this interdependence of process and data into consideration as you look at your digital transformation efforts, and as you look at automation, and how do you apply automation to your digital transformation efforts, and ultimately to how are you going to get higher data integrity. And one of the areas we see this apply frequently today is as people are modernizing their SAP environments. We've gone through, if you go way back, you can go to R3, and then you can go to ECC and the SAP GUI or the SAP GUI. And now people have moved to S/4HANA. So they're moving to in-memory database, they're moving to pure cloud, and they're updating their interface to Fiori and Fiori apps. And what we've seen, though, is as people have moved to Fiori, it's really not solving a lot of the challenges that they always had. And along this line of modernization, last year we did some research, and we really were looking at sort of what are those interface options that people are choosing as they migrate to S/4HANA. And what we found was that in about 60% of SAP environments and SAP users in the Americas, because this is America's SAP user group, but it was a fairly international audience, actually. But about 60% of the respondents are still using some combination of SAP GUI, Fiori, and GUI for HTML. So there's not one solution. They're looking at what is going to be the best one of these interfaces for them. And in many cases, they've been doing automation in SAP GUI, and now they've moved to these newer interfaces, and they're back to where they were before they adopted automation in the SAP GUI. And with Fiori, a lot of the customers we talk to and the companies we talk to are seeing the same challenges they always had. Fiori does a lot to streamline the interface, make it simpler, make it a little bit easier, but there still is this need. You still have the same amount of data that you have to enter. If you're doing it manually, these processes still tend to be slow. You still run the risk of manual data entry errors. And these complex processes really haven't changed that much. And now with some processes that companies got used to doing one way, they're only available as Fiori apps. And a great example of that is commodity codes. So as people are making this move and modernizing their systems, they're actually seeing a bit of a regression when it comes to process efficiency. Because they've moved to a modern interface, but the interface hasn't addressed many of those underlying challenges. And when you get to something like SAP Launchpad, it kind of masks a lot of what you're dealing with. Because in Launchpad, often a Fiori app or a pure Fiori app or a Fiori-esque app that was built in like Web9 Pro, or even a GUI for HTML or a SAP GUI interface pops up through Launchpad, and you don't know which one you're addressing as a user. So these are all challenges that we've seen, and we've had customers come to us again and again and again and ask us about. So how do we respond to that? How do we, as somebody who's done SAP automation for 20 years, look at this challenge and go, what can we do for you? Well, probably the most important thing we can talk about is Automate Studio as a unified automation tool. So Automate Studio, we recently introduced automation for Fiori and for GUI for HTML available as part of Automate Studio. And for those of you who go back to Windshuttle days, it's Windshuttle Studio. So a developer can develop for all of those interfaces. For those 60% of companies that have all three interfaces, now you can develop for all three. And Studio being the premier Excel to SAP automation tool and automation solution platform, it means that now your users, your business users who've always worked in Excel, continue to work in Excel. You don't have to ask them to do anything different. It looks exactly the same as it's always looked. But now if the underlying application that they're working in is either the SAP GUI or it's Fiori or it's GUI for HTML, it's seamless to them. So this is a way of simplifying your environment and helping you as you move to S/4HANA, not have to regress and go back to doing complex processes manually or complex processes in an ungoverned manner. So it's a really, really, we believe, a very important way of understanding how to maintain that pace of change, because remember, pace of change, never been this fast, never going to be this slow again. So that even though you've upgraded your technology environment, you are not regressing from the actual business process side of things. And to get an idea of what this looks like, I'm going to actually turn this over. This is a demonstration that was created by Sigrid Koch, who was one of our principal sales engineers. And many of you may know Sigrid if you've been on any of our various other webinars. And it's a really great demonstration of what we're able to deliver through Fiori automation. So I'll turn it over to Sigrid, and then I'll be back in just a few minutes.
For this demonstration, we'll be updating customer business partners, leveraging Fiori automation in Studio Pro. With the Fiori automation, we'll open up the Launchpad and find the app, in this case, Manage Business Partner Master Data in Fiori. We find the partner, open and edit it, go to the role, choose the company, edit whatever values we need to change, and save it. Once that's captured here in Studio, we'll be able to map that to Excel. So we have business partner, company code that we selected, as well as a number of other fields that we updated. And optionally, we can include attachments. So we've mapped that to our Excel file, and now we can test it. That looks good. We can optionally add lookup values. So here, if I select tolerance group, we'll see the properties. We'll click on lookup columns and select them. And this one happens to be company code specific, so we'll be able to select that as well. And that will allow for easy lookups. Let's take a look.
So I'm here in the Precisely Automate Studio with a new look and feel in version 24. And I have options to automate Fiori, which is an optional add-on, and a GUI for HTML. So I'll choose Fiori automation and recording a Fiori app. And then I can use a couple of ways to sign in. If I wanted to add my system, I'd include a Launchpad address and login information. I've already saved my credentials, so I'll select those. And then I can start a recording. Now it's going to open the Launchpad app, and I could basically record any of the apps that are here, including those that launch the GUI for HTML, like sales orders. But I'm going to choose Business Partner. I can navigate however I wish and open the app. And then I want to find a customer. So I can also, if you know the roles, include that as part of your search criteria. So you'll only find customer business partners. And there we go. And it shows all the roles that are already defined. And in this case, I want to automate an update of company code data. I want to switch to edit and then tell SAP's Fiori app that I want to go into roles, select the company role. And instead of going to company codes, it lists all the roles along the top. So I'll go hop down to company codes, and then I can simply select one. And it doesn't matter how I find a row, it will capture that I've opened up company code that I selected, in this case 1710. And then I want to go down to finance data and make some changes to some of the fields. So we'll change posting key, payment terms, customer tolerance group, and maybe put a space here in payment methods. That's good enough, so I'll click apply. Now I could go to other parts of my customer master, but that's good enough for this automation. So I'll click apply a few times because this is a draft-based app and I've navigated down a few levels, and then I finally click save. At this point you can close the app. I've got a success message. I tend to pull it back out and then close. And this has accomplished the recording part. Then we'll map and we'll run. So 3 easy steps. And for those of you that are familiar with Studio Transaction, it behaves very similarly. So we have a number of fields here that we can map. It also optionally includes the file attachments. I'm going to skip that for this portion. And then it has all the fields we've captured. So I'll go ahead and select those and start in column C. Make these a little bit wider. And then I can hop over here to run. Maybe add a row so that we have more than one to test. I'll make a few changes. And now I've finished. So as a designer, I can now run. I want to validate, so we're going to test the data. It wants me to save my Fiori automation and the Excel template. And now we'll validate. If we added one that was invalid, we can revalidate, and you'll see here that it says that the payment term is 99 is invalid for this customer. So we'll go ahead and change it back, and then we can just revalidate the ones that failed. When we're happy with the data, we can try to post it. And this is all happening through the Fiori app itself. And we've made the changes, and I could go into the Fiori app and see them. Now, one of the things that a developer often wants to do is make this simple for a business user. So I can come back here to the Map tab and select a row that has a lookup and choose my lookup columns. Now I can simply show the code, or I can include the description, and we figured this out for you. If I came here to, for example, tolerance group, this is company code dependent, so it's including the company code here. For company code 1, you might see certain tolerance groups. For company code 2, you might see others. So let's take a look at how that works. We'll come over here to company code. I'll put my cursor in the column and click lookup values, and I'll see all my company codes here, and I could select one and replace it. And I can come to tolerance group and choose lookup values, and for my second company code 1010, I can scroll down here and select a different value. and then I can reprocess. Once I'm done, I can publish. If I have the server-based product, Evolve, I can submit that to Evolve and have then a complete automation for the Fiori app. I hope you can see how easy that was and how easy it will be for the business users to use it.
So the benefits here of Fiori automation is that it allows for fast and easy updates via Fiori apps. You can validate and post. It allows for live lookups to make it easy to fill out and use for the end users. It supports that clean core that many of our customers are moving towards because there's no function module involved. And the automation is done via underlying API calls. You don't see them, you don't have to worry about them, and this is not using any kind of surface automation. And this is similar enough to transaction in Studio that allows for a really fast ramp up time for both the developer of the automations as well as the consumer, the business users who would leverage this to update or create business partners.
All right, so thanks, Sigrid. And hopefully now you have a better idea of kind of what it looks like, how simple it is to use. And then there's some really great benefits to why SAP Fiori automation through Automate Studio can really benefit you a lot. It's this no-code record, map, run process that we've always had. If you're familiar with Studio, it really doesn't change. It's very, very similar to what it's always been. The Studio Runner experience, as I mentioned earlier, it's exactly the same. The workers continue to work in Excel, and through Studio Manager or Evolve, being able to manage your users, being able to manage your scripts, very simplified, very streamlined. So there are those advantages and those benefits too. So if you're interested in learning a little bit more, trying it out, we do have a free trial available right now through precisely.com. If you go into the SAP automation section of the website, you can actually take a look at it. You can see more, fill out the form. Someone will get back in touch with you. We're going to make sure you've got the right kind of environment to be able to do this. And we will be happy to work with you to set up your free trial and give you an idea of what Studio can start to do for you. Whether you're already moved to S/4HANA and want to know more about how to automate Fiori or GUI for HTML, or whether you're still in ECC and considering that S/4HANA move soon. The free trial will work for either one. All right, with Fiori automation, and GUI for HTML, that's really the latest of what you have available today. And as I mentioned, there's that free trial. Now, what's coming next really falls into that area of artificial intelligence. And we've gotten a lot of questions about where does artificial intelligence fit into my future in terms of looking at digital transformation and automation. And for a long time, all the things in the circle around our data and processes for digital transformation, they kind of held the same level of emphasis. We were looking at cloud, and as we moved to cloud, we're looking at automation and self-service and all the various different parts of it. All of a sudden, about a year ago, AI just blew up, and artificial intelligence, kind of that extension of machine learning that we'd always looked at, has now become top of mind for almost every IT department, almost every executive, every data scientist. Everybody out there is looking and going, how can I use AI to drive more efficiency into my business? And with automation, it's no different. How can it become part of what I do on a day-to-day basis to make my business better? And I think it's important to understand the difference in the types of artificial intelligence that are out there. The big emphasis and a lot of the big talk is around this idea of Gen AI, generative AI, which is the ability to take a model that's been trained on massive amounts of data, in some cases as much of the internet as possible. And based on a prompt or a question that you give it, it's going to produce some level of content, some type of content. It's going to produce an article. Like if I write into ChatGPT and go, write me an article on the benefits of artificial intelligence for SAP process automation in 1,000 words or less, in about 30 seconds, I'll get a pretty decent article out of it. It's great. It's great for a lot of things. It can create images. It can do many really cool things. But when we look at automation and we look at automation within the enterprise, we firmly believe that predictive AI is going to be much more usable and efficient and effective in the short term. And predictive AI really is able to take and make accurate predictions based on data that you have and based on a process. So it uses statistical algorithms to predict. In many cases, it's like a field value or a routing or something of that nature. And this is what we're going to actually be doing it precisely in the very, very near future. And we're actually, if you're interested, contact us, because we are looking for people who want to understand how they can use this in their system and to do some early adopter work on it. So how's this going to work? Well, think about master data and think about material master, because we're going to start with material master. In a form like you would find in our Evolve product, you have lots and lots of fields. So all of the data that you traditionally need for a material master record, those 300 plus or minus data objects, all have fields. You've got to fill those out. In order to make sure that the data we want to go in there is as accurate as possible, we tend to put business rules on each one of those fields. And you can have hundreds of rules in just per different type of data record. And this is one of the things that can take an extreme amount of time. We've worked with customers where we know to build the technology solution might take 6 weeks, but we've had customers take over a year to develop the business rules for complex processes. That just seems counterintuitive. So one of the things you can do with predictive AI is start to look at how do you identify those business rules. Because when we think about what the challenges are around business rules, when we're building those business rules, they fall into a couple of different areas. One is there's often a heavy reliance on subject matter experts or tacit knowledge within our organizations. People who've been there a long time, done the processes, understand them. Now, one of the challenges that has really come out of there recently, though, is during the pandemic in the United States alone, it's estimated that about 5 million people took early retirement. So our subject matter experts who've been doing processes for a long time, they're currently sitting on a beach somewhere or playing golf and desperately trying to forget everything they learned throughout their career. So we don't have that tacit knowledge within our organizations. And then the other thing is getting that cross-functional alignment. We talked about the complexity and the organizational complexity. That is one of the great challenges that we see over and over and over again. Now, what if you can eliminate that and use artificial intelligence to identify the business rules? It probably will never eliminate all of the hard-coded business rules, but it can identify a lot of them and replace a lot of them with just a logic pattern for how have you done data in the past? How have you created a material master record in the past? And what is the logic or the logical data to complete a particular field? So what you might do is instead of putting all that data in, you might just add a little bit of data. What is the basics for the material? What are the core information that you need for it? And then the AI model takes over and it predicts what are the outputs going to be. And you may get something like this. So your output may be a completely filled out form or a mostly filled out form that has confidence levels in it. So let's say green is 90 to 100% confident and blue is 80 to 90% confident. And anything that's not one of those two is below 80% confident. And what it means is that the creation of a material master record becomes a review and approval exercise as opposed to a data entry exercise. And now, as you make corrections, so as you look at things in those green fields, you go, that's not quite right. It improves your confidence level. And so green over time may go from being 90 to 100% confident to being 95 to 100% or 98 to 100% confident. And blue becomes 95 to 97% confident, and anything else is below that. So the speed with which you now can review things, especially if it's green and it's 99 or 100% confident, becomes much, much higher. The data quality becomes higher. And so you're able to achieve a couple of things. Your agility goes up because you're able to create materials faster. The speed with which you're able to move through those processes is increased because, again, you're not doing nearly as much data entry. You're just looking at it as a data review process. And again, your data quality and in the integrity of that data, because as you go through these form processes, you actually continue to not only have it governed, but you're able to know exactly how high the quality of that data is. So those are some of the great benefits that we see around artificial intelligence being part of this. And what it creates is what I call this data-driven or this AI-driven data and process improvement loop, where you're using data in your database to build the model for that material that needs to be created. Every time you make a change to it, it increases the quality of the data that you use to make that prediction for what that material is going to be. And it just becomes this increasingly better data loop that you've got all the way through. Your model gets better and better and better and better. And the data that it's based on, it gets better and better and better. So this is where we see AI playing an absolutely critical role in the future of automation. It's that predictive AI side of things, especially with these complex master data processes that we have in SAP and in our SAP ERP systems. A couple of examples of use cases that we see today. This is before we're doing the Fiori automation, before we're talking about AI. 97% reduction in the time to create a customer. So this is a massive multinational company. They've got 1.2 million customers, and they cut the time to create a customer from 144 hours to 6. They effectively cut it from 3 weeks to less than a day. Think about how much total time that saves them, how much more agility they get because they can actually create and work with their customer data that much faster. So you've got agility and you've got speed, and their data quality has gone up significantly. This company cut their recycle rate from over 30% in terms of building data records to less than 2. Huge benefit coming out of it. 87% reduction in the time needed to qualify vendors and materials. So this is a specialty metals company that does a lot of custom alloys for the aircraft industry and for medical use. And traditionally for them, before they found automation, it would take them about 2.5 years to qualify a new vendor and new materials if they had to create a new alloy. Now, what does that customer conversation look like on their end? Their end would be, hi, yeah, okay, we're going to have to create a new alloy for that. Call us back in 2027. Now it's call us back in October or December or early next year. It's no longer a 3-year time horizon on something or a 2.5-year time horizon on something. It's a quarter. Their business fundamentally changes because they were able to speed it up, because they were able to gather that data and verify that data and know that that data is of the highest quality possible. So those are just a couple of examples. I'm not going to go through all these for the sake of time, but just know all of this is possible today. Now, imagine what happens when you're able to add AI onto that. And so you're able to go that much faster and you're able to cut that much more time and that much more cost out of it. Or you're dealing in Fiori where you've had to regress back to a manual process and now you're able to go back to automating that process. So the benefits of automation today are obvious. Now imagine what happens as we add new technologies to it. Automation really genuinely drives strategic value in your organization. It increases the efficiency and it saves you costs. You're going to enhance your customer experience. Again, think about that company that went from 2.5 years to 3 months. Their customer experience changed significantly. Your own employee, if you look at them as being a customer, their experience can go up because they're no longer data entry clerks. They're now able to do things very quickly and go back to a value-added task. Improved decision-making. Your data is of higher quality. You're able to get your data in and out of your systems faster, in and out of that SAP system faster. And it means that you can make your decisions faster, knowing and with greater confidence, knowing that your data is accurate. And it gives you a competitive advantage. So there are huge advantages to using automation today and then looking at what the future of automation holds. What is it going to do for you tomorrow? And if you start today with what's available today, so if you're using SAP GUI, if you're using Fiori, if you're using GUI for HTML, there are automation options available right now, whether it's Automate Studio or whether it's Automate Evolve from us. We can help you. We've done this for 20 years. We know these processes inside and out. Now, when it comes to the future, we can help you there because you are going to be in a place ready to go when artificial intelligence is available. And like I said, we are currently starting an early adopter program for that. So there's a lot of opportunity for you to get in early and use automation and use artificial intelligence to drive benefits in your business and across your business. So that's a little bit about the Precisely Automate, where we see automation going. But if you don't know that much about Precisely overall, so Precisely Automate, if you know Windshuttle, we are the old Windshuttle group. We were purchased by Precisely in 2021. So we are now part of the world's largest provider of data integrity solutions. So if you think about data integrity, it's the ability to get accurate, consistent, and contextualized data really from any system that is going to help you make better business decisions faster. As Precisely, we've got about 12,000 customers worldwide in over 100 countries. We're in 97 of the Fortune, or 99, sorry, of the Fortune 100. And we've got on any given day, about 2,500 employees. Now, many of the leading brands in the world trust us with their data. And hopefully after you've seen this, you'll trust us with yours. And we also work with a lot of different technology companies. So that idea of integration with other technologies is something that you will see prevalent across our entire portfolio. And I would love definitely to continue this conversation. As I mentioned earlier, you can find more information at precisely.com. We've got lots of examples of more demos than the one you just saw. We've got white papers. We've got case studies that really will show you in depth how people have taken advantage of what Precisely can do for them and what Precisely Automate can do for them. But if you have a specific question or something that's really, really kind of burning a hole in your brain and you're trying to figure out, how do I solve this problem in my SAP system? Give us a call. We would be more than happy to set up a short meeting and really understand what your problem is and figure out how we can help you solve that problem and that challenge. So I hope this session has been valuable. I know your time is valuable, and I definitely appreciate that you have chosen to spend it with us. We will now take some questions. Hopefully you've added yours. If you have more questions as we go through the Q&A, please feel free to continue typing them. And just know that if we don't get to your question, somebody from Precisely will definitely be back to you to answer it. So it will not go unanswered. And I look forward to seeing what you got to ask.